For more than 3,000 years, the galaxy had known peace. Not a fragile peace. Not a forced peace. A real peace. Great empires rose and fell, but the stars stayed quiet. Trade ships moved freely. Worlds grew rich and calm. And in the middle of this calm galaxy lived a strange species called humans. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the largest. They were not the oldest. They were known for only one thing. Never looked for war. Because of this, many races believed humans were weak. Far away, in the black core of the galaxy, sat the Zorvith Empire, a powerful alien kingdom built on conquest. Their fleets were massive. Their weapons were feared. And their king, Kral the Eternal, had ruled through fear for over 2 centuries. Kral hated peace. Peace meant no conquest. Peace meant no fear. And the quiet human worlds bothered him most. In the Grand Galactic Council, where leaders met through light and holograms, King Kral finally spoke. His voice was deep and cold. Humans, he said, you have enjoyed protection you did not earn. The council chamber went silent. Human delegates stood calm. They did not speak. They did not react. Kral continued, his eyes glowing with pride. The Zorvith Empire now demands tribute, ships, resources, and your children. A quiet shock spread across the chamber. Children. Even the most violent races turned their heads. This was not normal. This was not law. The human representative slowly raised his eyes. His face showed no anger, only control. Humanity refuses, he said. The words were soft, but they echoed. King Kral laughed, a cruel, sharp laugh. You refuse? He said, then you choose war. The council members waited for the humans to shout, to threaten, to beg. But the humans did none of that. The human delegate simply said one thing: humanity does not start wars. King Kral leaned forward on his throne. Then, prepare to lose one. The meeting ended. Across the galaxy, the message spread fast. The Zorvith Empire had demanded war on human worlds. There was no panic. No screaming crowds. No emergency broadcasts. Cities stayed calm. Skies stayed clear. People went to work. Children went to school. But deep below the surface, old doors began to open. Facilities that had not been used for centuries came alive. Ancient fleets, hidden in dead space, powered up silently. Human commanders gathered not to shout, but to listen. One old human admiral spoke quietly. They finally asked for it. Another replied, no, they demanded it. On the Zorvith side, confidence filled every hall. There, generals mocked humans openly. They have no war. Fleets, one said, they hide behind laws, and peace, said another. King Kral smiled as he watched. Reports, send the warning fleet, he ordered. Let them see our power. Zorvith warships moved toward human space. Thousands of them. Their engines burned like stars. Their weapons were ready. They expected fear. They expected surrender. But as they crossed the human border, nothing happened. No defense fleets. No warnings. No messages. The silence made some Zorvith officers uneasy. Where are their ships? One asked. They have none, a commander answered. Humans are cowards. Still, the silence felt heavy. On Earth, the human homeworld, leaders watched the invasion maps in silence. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, the human president stood. Activate Protocol Ash, she said. The room did not react with shock, only understanding. Far away, beyond normal space, human fleets finished waking up. Not loud, not proud, just ready. Back on the Zorvith flagship, King Kral raised a cup in celebration. History will remember this day. he said. The day humans learned their place. At that exact moment, every screen on the ship went dark. Then one message appeared. Plain white text. No symbol. No threat. Only words. You demanded war. Humanity has heard you. For the first time in centuries, King Kral felt something new. Not anger. Pride. Fear. And as the galaxy held its breath, humanity made its choice. The galaxy waited. After the human message appeared on the Zorvith flagship, no explosions followed. No alarm screamed. No fleets clashed. Only silence. That silence was worse than any weapon. On King Kral's command ship, officers worked fast. Screens came back online. Weapon systems responded. Engines burned strong again. We lost systems for only 3 seconds. A technician reported. King Kral sat still on his throne. His claws tapped slowly on the metal armrest. 3 seconds, he repeated. That was impossible. No race had ever shut down Zorvith systems, not even for a moment. Humans used a trick, one general said quickly. Nothing more. Yes, another agreed. They are trying to scare us. Kral nodded, but his eyes stayed narrow. Continue forward, he ordered. Full advance. The Zorvith fleet moved deeper into human space. Still, nothing happened. No mines. No defenses. No fleets. Human worlds appeared calm from orbit. Cities shone with light. Space stations sent no distress signals. Trade lanes stayed open. The Zorvith commanders laughed again. They really are helpless, one said. But then something strange appeared on long-range sensors. Not ships. Signals. Thousands of old signals suddenly active, coming from empty regions of space. Areas marked as dead, forgotten, useless, probably broken satellites. A Zorvith officer said, but another officer leaned closer to the screen. These signals are organized. Before anyone could reply, one Zorvith scout ship vanished. No explosion. No debris. Just gone. The bridge went quiet. Report. A commander snapped. No weapons fire detected, the sensor officer said, confused. The ship simply stopped existing. King Kral stood slowly. Impossible, he said. At the same time, on a human command station hidden far from Earth, Admiral Elias Grant watched the same moment on his screen. First phase complete, he said calmly. Around him, human officers worked without panic. Their voices were low, their movements precise. Confirmed no civilian targets affected, Grant asked. Confirmed, an officer replied. Only military vessels. Clean removal. Grant nodded once. Proceed. Back with the Zorvith fleet, panic began to spread. Another ship disappeared. Then another. Still no explosions. No sound. Just absence. What weapon is this? A general demanded, before anyone could answer. Every screen changed again. The same plain white text appeared. We warned you. This time, the message stayed longer. King Kral slammed his claw into the throne. Fire everything, he roared. Zorvith ships unleashed massive energy blasts into empty space. Beams burned through darkness. Missiles flew in every direction. They hit nothing. The human fleets were still unseen. Then, the first human ship appeared. It did not look powerful. It was not large. That it did not glow. That it simply existed close. Quiet and impossible to detect until it wanted to be seen. More followed. Hundreds. Then thousands. They surrounded the Zorvith fleet like ghosts. Human ships did not attack all at once. They waited. King Kral felt his confidence crack. Why are they waiting? He hissed. Because humans were watching. Human commanders studied every Zorvith formation, every weapon, every weakness. Then the attacks began. Not random, .perfect.cor, Vath command ships vanished first. Then supply vessels. Then communication relays. The fleet was being taken apart, slowly, carefully. Retreat. A Zorvith admiral screamed, but retreat paths were gone. Human ships appeared behind them, cutting off escape without firing a shot. On Earth, citizens still lived normal lives. They did not see the battle. They did not cheer. They trusted. Because long ago, humans had learned something important. War was not about rage. It was about control. Back on the Zorvith flagship, King Kral finally understood the truth. Had not avoided war because they were weak. They avoided it because they remembered it too. WELLA final message appeared shorter than before. This is only the beginning. King Kral stared at the words, his breathing heavy. For the first time in his long rule, the king of conquerors knew one terrible fact. The war he demanded was no longer his to control. The Zorvith fleet was breaking. Not with fire. Not with explosions. With confusion. Ships drifted without orders. Command channels stayed silent. Admirals shouted, but no one answered them anymore. Every second, another Zorvith vessel disappeared from sensors, erased as if it had never existed. King Kral paced across the bridge of his flagship. Find their command ship, he ordered. Kill it. End this illusion. His generals tried. They failed. Human ships did not fight like any enemy the Zorvith had ever faced. They did not charge. They did not chase. They did not celebrate victory. They hunted. Far away. Inside a dark human command carrier, Admiral Elias Grant watched the battle unfold. His voice was calm. Phase 2, he said. A young officer hesitated. Sir, Phase 2 will expose us. Grant nodded. Double quotes, yes, that is the point. Across the battlefield, human ships changed position. Their stealth faded just enough to be seen. Not all of them. Just enough to be noticed. The Zorvith fleet reacted instantly. There. A general shouted. Target those ships. Zorvith weapons locked on. Massive energy cannons charged. Missiles launched in waves. They hit. Human ships exploded. Real explosions. Real debris. Cheers broke out across Zorvith channels. We hit them. They bleed. They are not gods. King Kral allowed himself a thin smile. But then the sensor officer spoke again, his voice shaking. Sir, those ships were unmanned. Silence fell. The destroyed human vessels were empty. No life signs. No crews. Just machines. Bait. Before anyone could react, space folded. That was the only way to describe it. Human ships appeared inside the Zorvith formation. Not around it. Inside it. Point dash blanked. Weapons fired once. Zorvith ships shut down instantly. Power cores frozen. Engines dead. Life support failing. Still no explosions. Human ships moved on. On a human tactical screen, targets turned gray one by one. Disable complete, an officer reported. No. Civilian losses. Another confirmed. Grant folded his hands. Good. Send the next message. Every surviving Zorvith ship received it at the same time. We are not here to destroy you. We are here to end your ability to fight. Fear spread faster than fire ever could. Some Zorvith captains tried to surrender. Others tried to flee. Many froze, unable to decide. King Kral roared, do not listen to them. Attack, die if you must. But his words carried no power now. Human ships targeted the flagship. Not with weapons. With silence. Every system on the flagship shut down at once. Gravity failed. Lights died. The bridge went dark. King Kral floated, claws grasping at empty air. Emergency lights flickered back on. A single human ship appeared outside the viewport. Close enough to touch Dot, it did not fire. Instead, a human face appeared on the main screen, an older man. Calm eyes, no anger. "King Kral," Admiral Grant said. "You demanded war," Kral snarled. "You hide behind tricks." Grant did not react. "No," he said. "We hide behind rules. You broke them." "You will never take my empire," Kral hissed. Grant leaned slightly forward. "We are not taking it," he replied. "We are removing you from it." The screen went dark. Moments later, human boarding units cut into the flagship. They did not rush. They did not shout. They moved room by room, disabling guards, locking doors, sealing decks. Zorvith soldiers tried to fight. They failed. Human weapons stunned, not killed. Every move was controlled. Measured Dot on the bridge, King Kral was surrounded. Human soldiers aimed weapons at him. Their faces were hidden behind helmets. A human officer stepped forward. "King Kral," she said, "you are under arrest." Kral laughed bitterly. "You think this ends the war?" She answered without emotion. "This is how it begins." As he was restrained, Kral looked out one last time at the battlefield. The mighty Zorvith fleet, once feared across the galaxy, floated, powerless in space. Dot and the human ships. They waited. Dot, not celebrating. Dot, not chasing survivors. Dot, just waiting, across the galaxy. Other empires watched the feeds in. Shocked. Dot, they saw the truth at last. Humans did not fight with rage. Dot, they fought with patience. And this was only the first strike. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Across thousands of worlds, leaders, traders, soldiers, and civilians stared at live feeds coming from the Zorvith front. They had expected chaos, explosions, burning planets. They saw none of that. Dot, instead, they saw something far more frightening. Dot, control. Dot, the once feared Zorvith fleet floated powerless in space. Warships that had crushed entire civilizations were silent metal shells. No engines, no weapons, no escape. Dot, and surrounding them were human ships, quiet, steady, and patient. A neutral alien ambassador whispered, "They stopped a war without destroying a single world." Another replied softly, "No, they ended an empire." On a hidden human command station, Admiral Elias Grant studied new data streams. More signals were appearing across the galaxy. Zorvith colonies, Zorvith outposts, Zorvith military worlds, all waking up at once. "They are calling for help," an officer said. "They won't get it." Grant replied. Human fleets began to move again. This time, the galaxy noticed something important. Humans did not attack everywhere. Dot, they chose carefully. Zorvith military worlds lost power first. Shipyards shut down. Weapon factories froze mid-production. Defense grids went dark without a single explosion. Civilians were untouched. Hospitals stayed online. Cities kept power. Food systems worked normally. The message was clear. This war was not against the people. Dot, it was against the crown. On a distant Zorvith core world, generals gathered in panic. "We must strike their civilians," one shouted. "Force them to stop." Before the order could be sent, every screen in the room changed. The same simple white text appeared again. "Do not cross that line." Then a second message followed. "If you do, there will be no third warning." The generals froze. They all knew what it meant. Back aboard a human assault carrier, Captain Myra Solis watched prisoner transfers begin. Thousands of Zorvith soldiers were being taken into custody. "They are surrendering faster than expected," she said. Grant nodded. "They believed fear was power," he replied. "They never learned trust." News spread like fire. Smaller empires began pulling their fleets back from human borders. Trade guilds canceled anti-human contracts. Ancient rival species sent quiet. Messages of apology. The galaxy was adjusting fast, but one being had not adjusted at all. King Kral. He was held in a gravity-restrained chamber aboard a human ship. Energy cuffs locked his arms. His once proud armor had been removed. Still, his eyes burned with hate. "You think you have won," he growled at the human guards. "My people will rise." A guard answered calmly, "They already have." Kral laughed. "They will burn your worlds." The guard did not raise his voice. "No," he said. "They are asking for peace." That broke something inside the king. "What?" Kral demanded. On a nearby screen, live footage appeared. Zorvith governors, military leaders, even royal advisors. They were surrendering. Publicly. Kra roared and pulled against his restraints. "Traitors!" He screamed, but the galaxy had moved on. On Earth, human leaders met again. Not in panic. Not in celebration. In silence. "The galaxy is watching everything we do now," one leader said. "Good," another replied. "Let them learn." Grant stood at the end of the table. "Prepare Phase 3, he said. A general frowned. "That will expose the king." Grant nodded once. "Yes." Far away, on the Zorvith capital world, human ships entered orbit. No resistance met them. The skies filled with human vessels, visible to everyone below. Citizens gathered in the streets, looking up in fear and confusion. Then the broadcasts began. On every screen, in every city, one image appeared. King. Kral. Bound. Silent. Alive. A human voice spoke across the planet. "Your king demanded war," the voice said. "Your king threatened children. Your king broke the peace." Crowds grew silent. The voice continued. "We are not here to punish you. Pause. We are here to return what was taken." Human ships descended, and for the first time in Zorvith history, their capital gates opened without a fight. Deep inside his prison, King Kral felt something he had never known. Not fear, not anger, but the heavy understanding that his name would not be remembered as a conqueror. It would be remembered as a warning, and the streets below were waiting. The Zorvith capital had never known silence like this. Once, its skies were filled with war banners and victory songs. Now, human ships hovered above the city, quiet, steady, and impossible to ignore. They did not fire. They did not threaten. They waited. Millions of Zorvith citizens stood in the streets, staring upward. Fear moved through the crowds, but it was mixed with something else. Confusion. Nothing was burning. No. Buildings were destroyed. No soldiers were attacking civilians. This was not how conquerors behaved. Inside the main human command ship, Admiral Elias Grant watched the live feeds. His face showed no pride, only focus. "Begin ground operation," he said. Human landing craft descended slowly, touching down in open plazas and wide streets. Human soldiers stepped out in organized lines. Their weapons were lowered, their movements calm. Zorvith defense forces were already waiting. They dropped their weapons. Across the city, royal guards removed their armor and stepped aside. No one gave orders anymore. The empire had already collapsed. Everyone could feel it. In a secured chamber above the planet, King Kral was prepared for transfer. Human officers stood around him. Energy restraints held his massive body still. His eyes burned with rage and disbelief. "You think this humiliation will end me?" Kral hissed. "I am eternal." A human officer answered softly. "No king is eternal." The chamber doors opened. Kral was escorted onto a transport vessel, visible, unhidden, exposed. Cameras followed every movement. Not human cameras, galactic cameras. The entire galaxy was watching now. The transport descended into the heart of the capital city. When the doors opened, the sound hit him first. Silence. Tens of thousands of Zorvith citizens filled the main avenue. They did not cheer. They did not shout. They stared. Human soldiers led King Kral forward. Not gently. Brutally. Firmly. When his feet touched the street, something changed. The proud king of conquest, the being who had ruled through fear, was walking among his people with no crown, no armor, no throne. Just restraints. Someone in the crowd whispered, "That is him." Another voice answered, "That is the one who demanded war." The humans moved forward. Step by step. They did not rush. They dragged him. King Kral resisted, pulling against the restraints, trying to stand tall. But the street was uneven. His strength was gone. His image was broken. He stumbled. The galaxy saw it. Across distant worlds, leaders leaned closer to their screens. Warriors who once feared the Zorvith Empire felt a strange chill. This was not revenge. This was a message. Kral roared at the crowd. "Look at me," he shouted. "I am your king." No one answered. A small Zorvith child stood near the front, holding a parent's hand. The child looked at Kral with wide eyes, not with fear, with disappointment. That hurt more than any weapon. Human soldiers pulled Kral forward again. The long central avenue stretched ahead, lined with ancient statues of past kings. Conquerors. Destroyers. Tyrants. Now their successor was being dragged beneath their stone eyes. On a human command channel, an officer spoke quietly. Crowds remained non-hostile. Grant nodded. "They don't need anger," he said. "They need truth." Halfway through the march, King Kral's voice broke. "You could have killed me," he snarled. "Why this?" Grant's voice came through the public channel, heard by all. "Because death ends stories," he said. "This one must be remembered." Kral fell to his knees. Soldiers lifted him again. No mercy. No cruelty. Only purpose. At the end of the avenue stood the high judgment platform, where kings once gave speeches of victory. It waited for something else. The humans stopped. King Kral was forced to face the crowd. Millions of eyes met his. A human officer stepped forward. "King Kral of the Zorvith Empire," she said clearly, her voice echoing across the city and the galaxy. "You demanded war. You threatened the innocent. You broke the peace of 3,000 years. She paused. "And this is the result." King Kral lowered his head. For the first time in his long rule, there was no anger left, only understanding. Across the galaxy, one truth became clear. Humans did not destroy kings to feel powerful. They destroyed the idea that power came from fear. And this march was not the end. It was the beginning of judgment. The high judgment platform had not been used in centuries. Once, it was a place of celebration. Kings stood there to announce victories. Crowds cheered. Banners flew in the sky. Now, there were no banners, only silence. King Kral stood at the center of the platform, restrained and exhausted. His once golden eyes looked dull. The city stretched before him, millions of his people watching, not as followers, but as witnesses. Human soldiers formed a wide circle. Weapons were ready, but not raised. This was not an execution. This was something else. Admiral Elias Grant stepped forward. His image appeared on screens across the city and far beyond it. To every corner of the galaxy. His voice was calm, clear. "King Kral," he said, "do you understand why you are here?" Kral lifted his head slowly. "You won," he growled. "Do what you came to do." Grant shook his head slightly. "No," he replied. "We did not come to win. We came to answer." A low murmur moved through the crowd. Grant continued, you demanded war. You threatened children. You believed fear made you strong. He paused. You were wrong. Krall laughed bitterly. You speak of morals, he said, but you dragged a king through the streets. Grant met his eyes. Yes, he said. So the galaxy would remember what happens when power forgets responsibility. A Zorvith noble suddenly stepped forward from the crowd, old, shaking. You cannot judge our king. The noble cried. Grant turned to him. We are not judging your species, he said. We are judging a choice. The noble froze. That difference mattered. Human officials brought forward a data display. It hovered in the air, showing records, destroyed worlds, enslaved races, broken treaties, all under Krall's rule. Each image hit harder than the last. The crowd began to react, not with rage, but with realization. This is what he did, someone whispered. Krall looked away. Grant spoke again. King Krall, humanity will not kill you today. Gasps echoed across the platform. Krall's eyes snapped back. You spare me? He asked. No, Grant said quietly. We remove you. With a gesture, the restraints on Krall's arms released. For a moment, hope flickered in the king's eyes. Then new restraints locked around his neck and torso. Markings of exile. Human technology. Permanent. Public. You are stripped of crown, title, and command, Grant said. You will never rule again. You will never be forgotten. Krall's breathing grew heavy. What happens to me? He asked. Grant answered without hesitation. You will live. That was the cruelest sentence of all. You will live to see your empire rebuilt without you. Grant continued. You will live knowing the galaxy remembers you not as a conqueror, but as a warning. The platform doors opened. Beyond them waited a small vessel. No guards of honor. No throne. Just a prison ship. The crowd watched as Krall was led away. No cheers. No cries. Only quiet understanding. Across the galaxy, leaders began to speak to one another. If humans did this to a king, what would they do to us? What line must never be crossed? Human fleets began withdrawing from Zorvith. Space, slowly, openly. They took no land. They claimed no tribute, demanded no obedience. Only one message was broadcast across the stars. Peace is our choice. Do not mistake it for weakness. On Earth, people finally learned what had happened. Still, there were no celebrations, no parades. Just relief. Grant stood alone in the command room, watching the prison ship disappear into deep space. An officer asked quietly, Sir, was this enough? Grant did not answer at first. Then he said, It will be. Far away, inside the prison ship, King Krall sat alone in darkness. For the first time. There were no enemies to fight, only memories, and the knowledge that the war he demanded had taken everything from him without taking his life. The galaxy had seen judgment. One final park remained, and it would echo forever. The war ended without a final battle. That alone shocked the galaxy. Human fleets withdrew from Zorvith space in clear view of everyone. They did not rush. They did not hide. Their ships moved calmly, like a tide pulling back after a storm. Behind them, the Zorvith Empire was no longer an empire. It was something new. Zorvith leaders gathered in their capital, without crowns, without titles of fear. For the first time in centuries, decisions were made with voices, not threats. Human advisors did not rule them. Human soldiers did not stay. Humans left the eye. Zorvith people to choose their own future. Across the galaxy, this choice caused confusion. They could have taken worlds. Some said they could have demanded tribute. Others whispered, but humans did none of it. Instead, a final galactic broadcast was sent. It was not long. It was not dramatic. It was simple. Human voice spoke. We were peaceful by choice. We remain peaceful by choice, but peace is not permission. The message repeated across star systems, translated into every known language. On distant worlds, rulers watched in silence. Military councils were called. War plans were erased. Old threats were reconsidered. The galaxy had learned something important. Humanity was not the strongest race. They were something far more dangerous. They remembered history. On Earth, life continued. Children still went to school. Ships still traded. Cities still grew. Most humans never saw a battle. Many never knew how close the galaxy came to burning. They trusted those who stood in the dark for them. Admiral Elias Grant returned quietly. No crowds waited. No medals were shown. He stood once more before the human council. Will they try again? A leader asked. Grant answered honestly. Some will think about it, he said. But they won't act. Why not? Another asked. Grant paused. Because they saw what restraint looks like, he replied. And they understood what comes after it. Far away, deep in unmarked space, a prison ship drifted alone. Inside, King Kral sat in silence. No guard spoke to him. No voices answered him. Only screens that showed the galaxy moving on without him. Zorvath children laughing in streets. Former enemies signing peace treaties. New councils forming. Without fear, his name appeared only. Once inside history archives, Kral the last. The king who demanded war. He closed his eyes. For the first time, he understood. Humans had not destroyed his empire. They had outgrown it. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Borders softened. Trade increased. Wars became rare and short. When conflicts rose, one phrase was often spoken. Remember the humans. And everyone did, because somewhere in the shared memory of the stars, one truth remained clear. If humanity ever went silent again, if they ever stopped talking, if they ever began to prepare, it meant someone had forgotten the lesson, and the galaxy would not survive. Being taught twice, the stars stayed quiet, not because humans were weak, but because they were watching.